Good evening to all. Welcome to this webinar series sessions hosted by CCC, Consultants Consortium of Chennai, on the auspices of World Accreditation Day 2020, which is widely celebrated globally on 9th June. And today's is the webinar number 14, and the topic is food safety certifications at national and international level. Next slide, ma'am. About Consultants Consortium of Chennai. It's an association of management system consultants registered under the Tamil Nadu Societies Registration Act 1975. The key objective of CCC is to work in alignment with the National Quality Mission launched by the Government of India by educating the industry about the role and importance of standards, certifications and regulations in the country as well as in the global markets. CCC strives to encourage responsible consulting through members of its association, and focus is to standardize consulting practices in alignment with the changing market and industry needs in a dynamic manner. The focus is also to identify areas and industries in which the consultants in the profession of management system consulting can contribute to the betterment of the society and the country, and to promote management system consulting in such areas or industries. One of the core objectives is to collaborate with various industry platforms, trade associations, chambers of commerce, management associations, apex bodies of government or quasi-government organization to contribute to the betterment of the industry initiatives, which will in turn contribute to the betterment of the society. Next slide. About World Accreditation Day 2020. World Accreditation Day is a global initiative established by ILAC and IAF. This year's theme is how accreditation improves food safety. Accreditation has an important role in food safety by ensuring competent and impartial inspection, certification and testing services in all parts of local, international and national and international food chains. In doing so, accreditation supports the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, SDGs, in particular the Good Health and Well-being Goal, SDG 3. Accreditation can be applied to a wide variety of assessment, approval or evaluation tasks and is used by business, government and regulators to help deliver a safer world. Now I request Alok Jain ji to say a few words introduce about TCB to the audience.
Good evening and thank you very much for giving this opportunity. I am Alok Jain. I am the Director and Head of Training and Capacity Building of Quality Council of India. As you know, Quality Council of India is having various boards responsible for the accreditation of the conformity assessment bodies. Like NABCB is giving the accreditation to certification bodies and inspection bodies. NABL is for the laboratories, NABH for the hospital and healthcare providers. NABET is in the field of education sectors, and NBQP is for the quality promotion. So there is a new division which is constituted under Quality Council of India. It is name is Training and Capacity Building Division. This main aim of Training and Capacity Building Division is to providing the training in a centralized manner on all the aspects of the conformity assessment bodies, and we look forward to work in various domains like quality management, food safety, healthcare, laboratories, inspection certification bodies, environment, technology, food processing, etc. And we are looking forward to have the association with the, we look forward to collaborate with various associations, and CCC is one of them, whom which we are working very closely. Thank you very much for giving an opportunity to introduce TCB. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alok ji, for giving an introduction about Training and Capacity Building Division. Now, today's topic presenter is Chinmay Madam, and co-presenter is Mr. Prem Kumar. Now, I hand over the session to today's presenter, Chinmay Madam. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you so much, CCC. Thank you so much, Krishna Datta, for introducing me to CCC, and thank you, CCC, for giving me an opportunity. I always have been saying my name is Chinmay, and if you can't remember my name, you remember Chennai, so that you don't forget me. So it gives me an immense pleasure to be, on this platform. what we have as an objective today is to understand various standards, certification standards at national and international level. What are the changes in GFSI standard, including the changes which are expected during COVID-19 pandemic, and what are the details of the certifications available for varieties of the food chain that we have, and let's say, I normally say this, welcome to the world of certification. About me, I have 23 years of experience through industry, consulting and certification. I am in the certification field from last 17 years. I started various food safety management system certifications in India. I think even the India's first IRCA approved ISO 22000 lead auditor course was done by me way back in 2007. After doing 2,500 plus audits, 1,000 plus training programs, I moved to more of a business development or managerial role, and I'm more into the business development and other activities. I'm also a national level resource person with FSSI and the Fast Track Steering Committee. I have participated at various national and international conferences, alumni of US Department of State, and I have received the award of Women Leadership Award for 2019 from ASSOCHAM. Currently, I am heading the Food Chain ID India for the Southwest Asia, and I will tell you gradually brief about Food Chain ID. And Prem Kumar is my co-host today. And Prem Kumar, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I can introduce. Good evening to all. I'm Prem Kumar. Today I'm the co-operative with Chinmay. I'm the managing director and principal consultant for the company called Jaivin Management Systems and Solutions Private Limited. I'm the lead auditor in BRC Food, BRC Packaging, and FSS 20,000 also. I'm management system consultant for food, feed, manufacturing, automotive, and construction industries. We have 16 years of experience in this consultancy field. We have international assignments in Oman, Dubai, and Singapore. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Jaivin. And I must appreciate your seamless coordination for this webinar, and you have been fantastic in getting this executed. Thank you so much. So I'll just quickly brief on Food Chain ID. This is an American company, very young, 1996 establishment. Head office is in Iowa. We are a growing company right now with 12 offices and 5 labs with 27% growth. As the name indicates, Food Chain ID is exclusively into agriculture and food and beverage segment. And if I just take this segment, we have about 38,000 plus customers in 100 plus countries for the various various services that we provide. And we have certified more than 1 lakh products for non-GMO project verification. We are into definitely certification. That's the first part of it. Then we are also into testing, and we are also into technical services. Now, what does this mean is something at a quick glance. So when it comes to certification, we are essentially into GFSI or food safety certification, not typical management system certification of 914 and 45. We do product identity preserve certification, which is our forte. And we also do sustainability certification, especially in the field of agriculture. So when it comes to GFSI food safety, we do entirely the BRC chain, we do SKF, IFS, FSSC, and those kind of, all these certificates, including ISO 22000. For identity preserve, we do non-GMO, gluten-free, vegan, organic certification, etc. In fact, we have about 34,000 companies certified for organic certification. And in case of sustainability, we do Proterra, Bonsucro, RTRS, Stanobisoya, etc., which is required from an agriculture commodity point of view. And we are 5-star rated certification body from BRC. We got this year the award from BRC as the certification body of the year, and also as approved training provider of the year. So if I may say, we probably would be world's second largest certification body when it comes to BRC certification. That's the kind of credibility we have in certification. When it comes to testing, our forte is in DNA based testing, and when we say DNA based testing, it could be anything from DNA barcoding or any speciation, or for example, how true basmati is basmati, or is this really buffalo meat, so we do the DNA barcoding and DNA mapping, and we were the first one to introduce PCR based testing for non-GMO, and we have written the rules on non-GMO testing in European legislation. One of the forte that we have is using metagenomics, and many of you would have heard of metagenomics more from a let's say genetic testing from a human point of view, but not from a food point of view. So what happens is, when we are taking a sample, we are testing specifically for E. coli or Salmonella, but we do not know if there is any other pathogen present in the sample, because it's a focus testing. In case of metagenomics, what happens is, we extract the DNA from the sample, and that DNA is tested against plotted against various microorganisms, and their genes are mapped. So we can tell at a complete what are the complete footprint of the microflora on that sample. That can be told using a DNA testing, and through predictive microbiology we can also determine what would be the shelf life of the product. So this is something which is really one of the USP of Food Chain ID. Then in the case of testing and technical services, definitely training and second party is audits is one of the activity, and I have already explained that we are BRC approved training provider of the year. Then we do regulatory compliance services, which means that we have a global library of the database of the regulations. So from 210 countries, for 11,000 plus products across 22,000 regulations, we can tell you at a click of a button. So for example, chili powder, what is the regulation in New Zealand, in Spain, and this, so you don't have to go anywhere. Just ask us and we can give you at a click of a button that this is a MRL, this ingredient is allowed, not allowed, etc. So that's a global regulatory compliance service which we do through Desonis, which is our company. Then we have Horizon Scan, which is an ingredient risk management software, and in this software we scan the import refusal, border refusals, recalls, any kind of rejections which has happened from 180 countries, and we do a complete map assessment. So if let's say vanilla, or if, in simple case, almond. So what are the top 5 risks with almond in last 1 year or over the period of time? Which are the countries where the risk is it? What is, and also we can tell up to a supplier level that which was the company from where the product was refused and who refused that part. So that particular consignment. And then this is a non-GMO project verification. So especially for US and Canada market, this particular butterfly logo is extremely important because it gives that extra delta value to the product as being non-GMO project certified. So this is brief about Food Chain ID. Now what I want you to do is use your chat box, and I want some answers from you. I always like to have an interactive session. So just write down your expectation on why we are, your views on why FSMS certification is required by the companies. Can you use your chat box to write down the answers? Why do you feel that FSMS certification is required? I haven't got any answer yet, and I want people to be, the participant to be really active. Product assurity, thank you so much, Devesh. Omega is, sorry, that seems to be a phone name, but to get placements in the outlet, okay. For assurance, Poonam, good. Expand business avenue, customer confidence, safety of food. Okay, to fulfill buyer requirement, perfect. Sonia, quality required for safety and assurance. So what we are saying is there is an extra confidence when it is being it is obtained, right? So it's to ensure that the food is safe and safe for consumption. Correct. So, and yes, Redmi, it's mandatory to get food license as well. Yes, as a part of our regulations. Good. So basically, when we look at it, we know that this gives an extra confidence. This gives a let's say assurance that things are safe, etc. But if I look at this from a more holistic point of view, this FSMS really helps us in mitigating non-tariff barriers. I mean, if you see this, if you see the import rejection, I mean, we'll talk about both the domestic as well as the import part. I mean, the export part of it, because we need to have both the topic covers national as well as international requirements. So if I look at first the international requirement, generally when a treaty happens between the two government, it is, or two parties, it is on the trade part of it. But people don't talk about the non-tariff barrier. Can I request all to mute their mic? Okay, so thank you. So, but when the rejection happens because of non-tariff barriers. And what are those non-tariff barriers? It could be quality conditions, unjustified sanitary or phytosanitary conditions, improper labeling, or it could be like certificate of origin or certificate of authenticity is not there, or it could be some complex regulations, etc. So essentially, when we look at, now I'll share with you some examples of how non-tariff barriers are affecting the trade, or let's say the business, because at the end of the day, the certifications are supposed to help the business. It is supposed to give guarantee that nothing is wrong with my product. So just take an example of this. So this data is, I mean, very recent data from the Horizon Scan. And if I look at this, so what I have done is I have just extracted it from the country of origin. And now you look at this. This is very latest one, as you can see. And if I just look at the rejections which has happened from India export, country of origin as India. So from January, 1st of Jan till yesterday, we have had about 2,400 plus rejections. And it's a massive number across the world, because if you're looking at it from also, I still remember when I was interacting with a US import clearance officer, and he said, India is a very high risk country for us. So in just 6 months, 2,500, 400 plus is a very big number. Now you can see over here that now these are associated with the pesticides. So it's not that the pesticide, the company are adding pesticide, but it is that they are suffering because of it. And you can see that it is being rejected by Europe. Then the second one is again the commodity wise. So if I just take a commodity wise, you can see here what are the different reasons of rejection. So you can see here that it is due to undeclared milk. Now here this is because of the filthy, putrid and decomposed substance present in which is unfit. Then you can see here, like again, that this particular pesticide is present in basmati rice. So it's not that this is not known, but then something has gone wrong, because of which we are suffering for, because of this. And if I just take the third example, which is again, the topic wise, here you will see most of these are rejected because of gluten-free or undeclared allergens or something which is present. Now, we all know that gluten is an allergen. I mean, we don't really need to be very smart in that. But now see here, now this 6th May rejection from this, I have just deleted the name of the companies who has been affected or who has suffered because of this. Now if you see here the rejection, that the 10% of the grain-based foods is labeled as gluten-free, and over 35% of that do not contain gluten by nature, and it is found to be up to 90 times more than the permissible limit. Now, what does this mean? So, is it mean that we haven't checked the gluten percentage? What is this? I mean, if you take the last example again, that the highest level of gluten content, and if you see what is a you can call something as gluten-free when the gluten percentage is less than 20 ppm. So we are suffering because of known or unknown reason, or maybe sometimes over negligence, right? So this food supply chain is all about food traceability, food safety, food traceability, and sustainability compliance. Okay. Now again, use your chat box. I will just I'll use the chat box, and I would like to see how many certificates, what are the different types of certificates that are let's say available or that you know? When we talk about food safety system certification, what are the different types of certifications that you know? Can you type in the chat box? Okay, so we have FSSC, ISO, BRC 22, FSMS. FSMS is a very generic term. Okay, so typically FSMS will be like an umbrella term for everything. So we are essentially talking about 22. Okay, we have Jai Krishna, which has listed a number of things: Primus, GFS, non-GMO, SQF, QMS. Wonderful. JFSI. Okay, JFSI is not certification. JFSI is basically a body which approves various certification schemes. Okay, so if I look at still the kind of the range that we have is essentially talking about BRC 22, FSSC, non-GMO, QMS, etc. Now I will just focus essentially on certain aspect, and let me show you how how many certificates do exist when we talk about the food safety, or let's say we talk about the food chain. So if I just take the agri commodity, okay, or let's say basically the agriculture part. So it is commodity specific. Now when it comes to agriculture part, it is like we have Protera, which is for soybean, maize, and those essentially popular in those commodities. Bon Sucro is essentially popular in sugar. RTRS is soybean. Then ethical tea, we have all ethical tea, ethical coffee, ethical cocoa, ethical, you name it. I mean, it is like it just goes on. Then when it comes to oil, we have RSPO, then we have Rainforest Alliance, and so on. Now, if I take a primary produce, if I take a primary produce, and if I take now seafood, so we have in seafood, we have farms and we have CCOT. So if we take just this particular segment, so we have BAP, we have Global Gap Aquaculture, we have MSC Fishery, MSC COC, Global Aquaculture Alliance, ASC, and so on. Now, if we take again in the primary segment, the fresh produce segment. So in fresh produce, we have Global BAP, fruits and vegetable, floriculture, SEDEX, we have food safety for pack houses, and those kind of things. And then when we talk about animal farms, we have national or customer specific animal welfare standards. So there is nothing like specifically for the chicken or this kind of thing, but then essentially the other food safety requirement takes care of it. But then there are national chicken guidelines and some kind of animal welfare guidelines which are present there. Now, if we go to the food processing units, in the food processing unit, we have all these GFSI food safety certifications like FSSC, BRC, SQF, IFS, 22000, and then SMETA, EHS, kosher, halal. We have India HACCP, India GMP, GHP, etc. So processing plant has their own range of certification when we are talking about the food safety part. Then we have voluntary product standards. So these are not something which are mandatory, but then these are the ones which gives that delta value to the product. Now, what are their delta values? So those are these non-GMO certification, then vegan, gluten-free, lactose-free, organic, GI certification, vegetarian certification. So these are all those delta certifications which help companies. Then we have these, when we talk about the warehouse or the logistic chain, we have BRC storage and distribution, ISO 22000, FSSC and IFS, etc. And then when we look at agents, brokers and traders, we have BRC A and B. There's a spelling mistake. We have BRC A and B, which is agents and brokers. We have FSSC and we have IFS. So now if you see this from primary produce to agents and brokers, and then if we again look at this animal feed and pet food, and so there we have food packaging, food equipment manufacturers, so various schemes like FAMIQH, GMPP Plus, and so on and on. You really get exhausted to see the number of certification that exist, for F&B agri and F&B industry. I'm sure that none of the other sector has so much of schemes the way food industry has, and it really leaves every manufacturer or every component of this food chain really confused how much, and till how long, because there is a cost involved in that. And then on top of it, we have private standards. So no matter if you are certified to ABC, any of the certification, if you are supplying to Walmart, if you are supplying to ABC or any kind of this thing, so then you still need an additional, you need to comply with some additional requirements, right? So it just goes on. So now, if we have to really see what does FSMS mean, one of the answer was that it is a requirement of regulation. That's correct. It is requirement of the regulation. So as per FSSI, FSMS means, now this is purely from the FSSI perspective. So FSMS means GHP, which is as per Schedule 4 Part 2, GMP as per Schedule 4 Part 2, and Codex HACCP. Now we all know that this codex is, the GHP is getting revised, the Schedule 4 is getting revised, and the new Schedule 4 is absolutely in line with all these requirements of most of the GFSI standards. So it's already submitted for approval from Parliament, and expect the regulation to come anywhere in next 1 week to 15 days. So that's a new change in the Schedule 4 which is happening. And then as per GFSI, FSMS means everything about management commitment, prerequisite program, process control, product control, HACCP, management system, interactive communication, etc., etc. So GFSI has got more elaboration in terms of the management part of it, and not just the food safety aspect of it. So now if we really see the general focus of all certification standard, it's all about the regulatory compliance, it's about the organizational commitment, leadership, hygiene standards, environmental control, product control, process control, people control, HACCP, including now COVID-19 risk assessment, then management system, traceability, withdrawal, recall, food defense, food vulnerability. I mean, this list goes on, we all know this. Now, what was newly added a couple of years back was food safety culture, which is now getting more momentum, and post-pandemic, this is going to be another area of more emphasis, that how is the food safety culture developed in the organization. Apart from this, what has newly changed in this national and the international standard is the economic aspect, and the social and the psychological aspects has also been added to it. So if we look at the sustainability requirements, so if we talk about triple bottom line, right? Economic, then economic, environment, and social. So except for the environmental aspect, in true sense, it covers about all the economic aspect as well as the social aspects now. So there, so in case of food safety, the psychological aspect were never, included during the HACCP days. But now even the social and the psychological aspects are part of this. Now we, it's just a quick, let's say again, catch up. Can you write down the long form of these things? ISO, GFSI, BRC, IFS, SQF, and FSSC quickly. Can you write down? Can you write down the long form of ISO, GFSI?
Yeah.
Okay, so Galaxy S4 is British Retail Consortium. ISO long form is perfect. GFSI is also perfect. ISO no long form. Okay. BRC no long form. International Organization for Standardization. Yogesh, why you feel there is no long form to BRC? And so Global Safety Initiative, Safe Quality Food. Yes, no one has written for FSSC yet. What is the long form of FSSC? Indian Foreign Standard. Okay, Yogesh is saying Indian Foreign Standard, Food Safety System Certification. BRC is, Appaji Rao is saying British Retail Consortium. Sujit Nair, Suju Nair is saying, okay, good. So we all know about ISO, GFSI, perfectly fine, IFS, SQF, and FSSC, right? Now let's see the long form. Most of you got everything right except for BRC. Do you know what is the change long form of BRC? This is the one. ISO, International Organization for Standardization, GFSI, Global Food Safety Initiative. BRC is not British Retail Consortium. BRC is Brand Reputation Through Compliance. So they renamed BRC in the beginning of this year as Brand Reputation Through Compliance. After BRC was acquired by a Canadian company, they renamed everything. Okay, so IFS is International Food Standards, Safe Quality Food. Excellent. This is Jai Krishna. Take a pat on your back that you really wrote it correctly. Very good. Okay, so Komal is again, as I explained, it's not British Retail Consortium. It is Brand Reputation Through Compliance. So that's the long form of BRC now. Okay, so that's why you will see them saying BRC GS. So it's BRC and then GS stands for the global standards. Okay, so now all these standards are basically the mother document is Codex. Okay, Codex Alimentarius still remains the mother document for no matter what national or international standards are. Okay, so on this, so we have ISO standard, we have GFSI standard. Now I have just selected few. Someone has written Primus GFS as well. Then there is me. Then there is China HACCP, and then there are multiple other Japanese HACCP. But in general, these are the most popular one. US market do talk about Primus GFS, and it is very popular there, but they are not popular outside Europe, outside US. So what the schemes that I have taken are not limited to a particular country, but they are popular throughout. It's only that the degree of popularity differs based on the region. So for example, FSSC is more popular in Asian market, whereas BRC IFS is more popular in the Western market, and SQF is more popular in Europe, in American market. But in general, they are all global schemes. Okay, and then we have our QCI, which has India GHP and India HACCP. And I can tell you that they say that, when you want to make something a good song, right? You take we have like all the 7 we have various ragas, and then we select the best of the ragas based on, and to make a good song. So I can tell you the India HACCP and India GSP is the best of the documents, because whatever is good in one document is being, the reference documents, all the reference documents has been used, and a wonderful document has been made by QCI when it comes to India GHP and India HACCP. So India GHP is talking about the FSSI requirement. It is talking about Codex requirement, and it is also talking about the other regulatory requirements which are part of the food hygiene. And then what it also is talking about is the compliance to regulatory requirement of foreign countries. It's one of the best document when it comes to GHP requirement. Then the certificate validity is of 3 years with annual surveillance audit. And India HACCP is an add-on to after GHP. So once the company has to be certified to GHP, and then it can go to HACCP. They can directly go for HACCP, but then GHP is mandatory. The India GHP is mandatory. So it's a wonderful approach done by QCI that those who cannot go for HACCP, at least they know what are the hygienic requirements that needs to be in place. And then when they're ready for HACCP, so it's a very good step-by-step approach taken by QCI to define this. And this particular document is comprises of the GHP certification criteria. Then there is India, the standard is based on Codex HACCP, and also the regional guidance criteria done by FAO has been incorporated in this document. And ironically, today, 23rd June, I remember, 6 years back, I was with FAO at Bangkok, and we made this document. So it's just a coincidence, but I was part of making this document at FAO in Bangkok. So it gave me a fond memory when I was making this slide today. Now let's see the FSSC part. We all know that in case of FSSC, if somebody says that I want FSSC standard, we don't give one document, right? We have to give 3 documents. And those 3 documents are 22,000 sector specific PRP and FSSC part 2. So earlier it was part 1, but when they changed to version 5, it has been shifted to the requirements for implementation has been shifted to part 2. And these are the sector specific PRP programs, which has been listed by FSSC now. So like ISO 22000 FSSC is comprising of now is catering to most of the segments in the food chain, and it's applicable to the entire, I mean, I would say it is applicable to the entire food chain. Now, what has changed in the new version 5 is something which is maximum is in 2018 version. Some requirements more focus on now PASEP and TASEP, and then there has been enough revision from the certification process criteria from a CV perspective. So the auditor qualification, everything has been really made stringent, and the CPs has to really revamp the certification process to meet the version 5 requirements. So at a technical level or at an implementation, what are the requirements which are being changed? So definitely the structure is aligned with other ISO standard. Then we have elaborated definitions in case of ISO 22000. Now this is the most important thing, the third bullet point. The business risks are imported in apart from food safety risk, and I'm going to explain this in the next slide, in the next coming slide. Then there is change criteria for control measure assessment, change monitoring criteria for OPRP and CCP. There's good amount of focus on data analysis, and the competence is knowledge and skill. So it's no more training, no more education. It's about the knowledge and the skill. So these are the major, or let's say macro level changes which has happened. So to quote you some examples. So what are the, what is being changed conceptually? So I'm dividing the changes in 2 parts. One is a conceptual change and the second one is a technical change. Now what has changed conceptually is we have this preventive approach, because if you know ISO 22000 way back in 2005 was the only standard which did not talk about preventive action. It talked the word preventive action was eliminated from ISO 22000. The reason being that it was considered that if we are implementing this system, we are implementing a preventive system and not a reactive system. So that is the reason why they did not talk anything about the preventive approach. So that approach still continues and is being adopted by rest of the ISO standards now. PDCA, which is the, so when we say preventive approach, we are talking about essentially 2 things. One is a PDCA based process approach, the plan, do, check and act, which everybody knows. And the second one is a risk based thinking. Okay, so now what does risk based thinking mean in ISO? So it has identified risk in 2 parts. So one is an organizational risk and the second one is operational risk. So what the standard says is operational risks are to be handled by HACCP and organizational risks are to be identified through another mechanism. So now what are the organizational risks to be identified? It is given in clause number 4, which we talk about the understanding the context of the organization. Now all these things what you see here, legal, technological, competitive, market, blah blah blah, whichever is seen over here, these are the risks. Okay, now to identify these risks, how do we do this? So we definitely have HACCP for food safety and quality related risk. So that is how we treat this. That is how we mitigate this. And the second one is about the vulnerability, the security, the cyber security, or those kind of risks which is done through VASEP and TASEP. And the third risk which is to be managed is the legal and competitive risk, which is organizational. So when we talk about risk, we are talking about all the things which organizational is facing, including competition, market intelligence, etc., etc. And this is how it requires, I mean, this is how the management is required to be done. So what is an approach over here is Previously, when we used to take objectives or this thing, we always used to take, objectives based on the department or process. But now here it is all about the risk. So to quote an example, so if you really see, if you take this example, so warehouse manager is informing that there is no space available. QC manager is informing that the regulation is changing. Plant manager is informing that there is, water shortage. Facility manager is informing that access control is required to be done. HR is saying that, labor union is forming, blah, blah, blah. So all these are risks from ISO 22000 point of view, and they need to be managed. So how that has to be managed? So you have identified a risk. Now, once the risk is identified, identify what is a mitigation plan, then identify objectives on that mitigation plan. So identify risks. So mitigation plan includes the stakeholders, right? So who are the people who are getting affected, and what is it that I need to do to maintain their expectation? So identify objectives and then evaluate the effect of this. So it is no more departmental objective or a process objective. It is risk-based objective. So you identify, the organization has to identify what are the risks, and these risks, as I mentioned, need not be just food safety or quality. They are total organizational risk, and this is a change approach in case of ISO 22000. Okay, so some examples in the technical changes which has happened is, for example, food safety. So earlier definition was concept. Now they are saying it's no more concept. It is assurance of the food, that the food will not cause harm. The change in the definition of OPRP, which in the previous version was talking only about reduction of food safety hazard, but now in case of new version, it is talking about food safety hazard and or process or product with an action criteria. So this is not a technical session, so I'm not going in details of explaining what this is, but what I'm trying to tell you is the fundamental approach, the concept has been changed in the new version. Okay, so for example, CCP, it is about prevention and reduction of hazard, but in case of 2018, what they have also added is the correction has to be done. So which means if you can't take correction at that point of time, it cannot be, it doesn't qualify as CCP. Another example in case of technical changes is change in the control measure assessment criteria. So there has been kind of 7 questions which we used to use to classify a control measure as OPRP or CCP, but now it's something which has been redone. So chances of failure of control measure severity. So severity has been redefined into further 4 parameters. Then feasibility of measurable correction, critical limit, feasibility of monitoring to detect, and can you take timely correction. So if you can't take timely correction, you cannot call that control measure as CCP. So that is how they have changed the new approach. Okay, this is when it comes to FSSC. Now it's about the BRC part. So in case of BRC, there are 6 variants which we know: food safety, packaging, then we have retail, then there is consumer products, storage and distribution, agents and brokers, right? So these were the essential 6, the 6 part, and then there were additional modules which were which has been part of the BRC one. So if you want to show compliance to FISMA regulation, so you take that as an additional module. So you have BRC food safety, and then you have BRC, the additional modules. Now in this particular thing, what has changed is this, you see this model number 12, Association of European Coeliac Societies. Now this model is going off because they are coming out just like this. Their BRC has come out with 2 additional standards, and it is BRC plant-based and BRC gluten-free standard. So they have acquired a Canadian company, and through that acquisition, now it is being the gluten-free standard as a separate certification is being released. Okay, so BRC plant-based is talking about the vegetarian, the vegan kind of part, and then gluten-free is talking about the gluten-free aspect. And then BRC has also included the ethical trade and responsible sourcing part of it. So this is about the BRC part. Then there are some updates like the storage and distribution standard is being revised to include the additional modules like integrated e-commerce or cross-docking modules, and the expected date is 1st of November. So this is a very, since this is the consortium of the consultants, so this is something that we need to start upon working on this, with especially with the storage and distribution companies, that it's now going to have integrated e-commerce module. And we also know that FSSAI has modified the requirements of e-commerce into the licensing system. And here the additional model is of a cross-docking module. Now this cross-dock model is not explicitly stated in FSSAI, but then BRC has got defined the requirements in case of the storage and distribution. Then they have also included in the food safety an additional requirement of pest control during COVID-19 period, and how this pest control management has to be considered as a part of COVID-19. At this point, I want to also inform you that the audit duration calculator has been changed from 1st of April, and they have added approximately 2 to 4 hours depending upon the size and other thing. And now BRC scheme owner's fee is revised from 1st of August to 575 GPB, which is, and then there is additional GPB, additional module GPB fee of 100 GPB. So if we take 675 GPB, approximately 65,000 is the BRC scheme owner fee. So this is the one of the major changes, and the reason why they are increasing is they are saying the requirements are getting stringent. So if you know, I mean, it's a and that is how you know, they are saying that we don't want any hanky-panky person to be in our thing. I can tell you they were with 128 certification bodies. Right now they are with just 67 certification bodies. They have started delisting certification bodies which are not performing. Okay. Then there is something which is I want to inform, because of the profession that we are in. There is something called as BRC professional, and most of the consultants you know, in the Europe are getting themselves certified to BRC professional learning program. Now this certificate, this learning program, it consists of basically three categories, and this category is the BRC standard. Then there is HACCP plus one of the course, and then one course on product safety. So if 1, 2, 3 either of these courses are done in a then BRC you get a BRC professional budget, and you can claim in your let's say in your visiting card that you are a BRC professional, which gives a kind of additional recognition into the portfolio. Okay, so this is about the BRC part, BRC updates. And I think we are coming to this, you know, I hope I have not exhausted the time, but before I close, I want to inform about the COVID-19 assessment. And as we know, since I was also part of COVID-19 steering committee for FSSAI on writing down various requirements in terms of hygiene and sanitation and other things. So COVID-19 GFSI requirement, there has been a kind of, GFSI took the stand of not doing a remote audit, and which was a kind of setback for most of the scheme owners. And they thought that this will get resolved in 1 or 2 months. So they gave an extension permission to extend the certificate by 6 months. Now GFSI is kind of allowing if not the remote audit, but the remote audit is in 2 parts. It's not a remote audit per se, but it is blended audit. So what does blended audit mean is that you do off-site document review and you do on-site the site, the site audit is to be done on-site. So only the document review part has been waived off as a remote audit, but the physical audit still exists. Now this physical audit has to be done within 28 days. This is a stand that BRC has taken. FSSC has not yet, as we speak today on 23rd June, FSSC has not come out with their requirement, but essentially they would be in almost a similar line. However, they have said that what they have waived off is period for doing surveillance audit, wherein it was earlier like 11 months. The first audit is to be done within 11 months and so on. So that period they have extended, but it doesn't mean that you get the certificate of 3.5 years. It is still 3 years of certificate. Okay. Then this is the change in terms of COVID-19 assessment. So organization has to demonstrate. And when we talk about COVID-19 compliance from FSSAI perspective, we definitely, like HACCP team, we need to have COVID-19 assess the emergency team. There has to be an emergency coordinator, emergency stock of sanitizers, emergency stock of PPEs, and so on and on. So, which is very well covered in FOSTAC COVID-19 sessions. So from an implementation perspective, FSSAI guidelines are very clear. And every day, I mean, you don't know, like the revisions are happening, you know, the requirements are changing. So earlier it was 3 feet, now they are saying 6 feet. Earlier hand wash was 20 seconds, now it is 40 to 60 seconds, which is said by Ministry of Food, Health and Family Welfare. Then we are talking also about 0.1% of hypochlorite solution, and somewhere it is 1%. So there are multiple guidelines which has come, which the industry has to follow. And I'm sure you are helping industry in terms of complying with this requirement. So from my side, this is, you know, this is what I have. And I open the floor for question and answers, and that's my contact number and the email ID, so that if any, I'm just a phone call or an email away for anything. The floor is open for question answers.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you very much for this wonderful session. My name is CM Harbula. Actually, we are dealing in a rice milling plant.
Okay.
Actually,
Sir, we lost your voice.
hello.
Yeah, we lost your voice in between.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Hello. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please. Hello.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, ma'am. Actually, we are also BRC A grade certified company. We are dealing in a rice milling plant in Bhopal. So,
yes.
So what my question is that because of this COVID-19, our this surveillance audit, which happens once in a year, because the certification what we get from BRC UK, that is valid for 1 year. Now this now the surveillance audit is due in the month of July first week.
Okay.
So are there any guidelines that audit has to happen, or this audit will be postponed automatically? We have to show some non-conformities, presentations, last action points. So what is the scenario? Whether it will happen or not, this audit?
No. So now I think we are in that phase of unlock now. But if you're still in a containment zone, or if you think that, you know, there is a let's say restricted area to come into your factory, you can write down to your certification body that your audit is due, but this is in the content, there is a restricted travel in your factory, or you know, there is a containment zone, and you would like to apply for a COVID-19 risk assessment. So your certification body will sit with you. They will do a remote COVID-19 risk assessment, and they will inform the you know, through their technical team, they will inform BRC that this is because of this reason that risk assessment has been done, and then you get an extension of 6 months. So there has to be a valid reason. So you will have to inform your certification body to do a COVID-19 risk assessment. It will not happen automatically.
I think it's not there. Fine. One more question.
Yeah.
One person is asking us to repeat the cross-docking, that you want to get more clarification. Cross-docking.
Okay, so what is cross-docking? So for example, when you order something from Amazon, so Amazon, for example, the warehouse is in Bangalore, right? So which is a central warehouse. So from this central warehouse, it goes into a secondary, let's say CNF, and from that CNF, from the big vehicle, it then, when it reaches to a certain city or, you know, some rural areas, it gets transferred into the smaller vehicle. So from where these are the place where from a big vehicle to small vehicle, the material is transferred. Those are called as dock stations. So that's called as cross-dock activity.
One more question is from Mr. Jai Krishna. GFSI post form is mandatory for FSSC and BRC for LA.
Is it mandatory? Mandatory is I mean, if I understood whether this is mandatory, are you looking at from a national perspective or an international perspective? Because from a national perspective, there is no specific requirement given by FSSI. FSSI except right from India HSSAP to any of the GFSI standards. So they need FSMS certificate. But from an international perspective, as I had told before, certain schemes are popular in some part of the region. So if your customer is, let's say, for example, in UK, they probably would prefer BRC than FSSC. So if your customer is in the Asian side, for them FSSC, maybe in some cases ISO 22000 is also acceptable. So it depends upon the popularity of the scheme in that particular region and the customer who is supporting that scheme.
Another thing is no more questions. Deepika is asking about WASH scheme. I think it's common to all. It is not specific to food industries. Am I right?
Yeah, correct. That's common to all, and it's a scheme launched by QCI, I guess, and it's for everyone. So COVID-19 compliance can be demonstrated through WASH scheme as well, but it is not exclusively for food industry.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of questions from audience. Is the certifications are mandatory for our business? They're expecting not about by seeing the certificates, they think it is mandatory for the business. Can you clarify this to all our audience?
Mr. Javed, I am unable to get your question completely. What is mandatory?
In the time of discussion, all our audience thinking these certificates are mandatory for their business. Okay. Is it mandatory or it's obligation? And clarify to audience.
Okay, so as I have explained before, the certificate, irrespective of the standard, the FSMS certificate is mandatory when it comes to state or central license. Okay. Now, FSSI doesn't specify which FSMS certificate you can have. So, as I said before, from India HACCP to GFSI standard, any certificate is okay with FSSI. They accept everything. When it comes to your customer, selling it to your customer, the popularity of scheme is region specific. So if your customer is asking, so most of the customer would definitely like to have GFSI certification scheme. But in that scheme, whether you want to go for FSSC or BRC or SQF depends upon the locality, the region where your customer is based and what scheme they accept. So as I mentioned, so if the customer is in UK, probably will like to have BRC.
To Dropbox we have to put.
Sorry?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, please wait until you're getting time for you to ask. Just 2 minutes. She is in talk. Yeah. But we can continue.
Okay, so in other words, they would not, I would not say, I mean, they are mandatory, but not in black and white. But most of the customers, most of the companies definitely want their suppliers to have GFSI certification. Yeah, what are the next questions?
I think Mr. Sendil asking some questions. I'm unmuting him. Last question. Mr. Sendil, unmute yourself and you can ask your question now.
So I can see a question if home appliances are covered by any food safety standard. So ISO 22000 is the standard which can certify home appliances. I mean, which can be used for certifying home appliances. Then I think there is one more question on safety of products prepared at home kitchens and available. So I believe you have, that is, the CCC has a separate webinar on food safety at home. So am I correct? Jyoti is asking this question. So I believe there is a separate program on this.
29th we have this session.
Yeah, right. Then Muhammad is asking, is halal certification mandatory? For all Islamic countries, yes. they without halal certification, I mean, mostly it is like mostly it is a requirement, like Saudi Arabia officially requires halal certification. Like in case of let's say then there is kosher certification for Israel. So it's just a country specific requirement. From a mandatory India perspective, no, it is not mandatory. Then Ritika, I guess, is asking how do we get the presentation. So PDF copy will be shared with CCC, and I guess your database is available with CCC, and they will email it to you. Am I correct, Mr. Jaivi?
Ma'am, I will answer this. I am Srikantan from CCC.
Yeah.
We are uploading all this presentation in the cloud, and we will be providing the link for each day's topic after the end of the total webinars on June 30th. So each topic will have a link, and the participant can go to the link and check it online.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Srikanth.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let us close the question section.
Mr. Ramkumar, sir.
No. Chinmay, please give your final document.
Okay, so if there are no questions, this is an official thank you to all the participants. Official thank you to CCC, and thank you, Mr. Jaivin, for being an excellent moderator. So I truly enjoyed on this session, and it's great to know the CCC, you know, and the work that you're doing. And thank you, Krishna Datta, for suggesting the name.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chinmay madam. On behalf of CCC, I thank you for a wonderful presentation and a lot of information you have shared. I think hope all the participants were benefited with the feedback that what they are typing in the chat box. We could able to sense that. Thank you for giving a wonderful presentation, madam. On tomorrow's webinar topic is on supply chain management, food safety, storage and warehouse. So the meeting ID and the password will be the same as like today. So I will welcome all the participants to actively participate in tomorrow's webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Stay safe. Yeah, stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe.